My dad refused to attend my graduation because it wasn't important. 2 days later, he saw my photo on the news. I walked across the graduation stage in my cap and gown, searching the crowd for my father's face. The auditorium was packed with families cheering and cameras flashing. I scanned row after row until I found my mother sitting alone in Section C. She was crying, her hands pressed to her mouth. The empty seat beside her felt like a scream. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out as I accepted my diploma, my smile frozen for the photographer. The message was from my father, for words that made my stomach drop. I told you this ceremony isn't important. Before I continue the story, if you enjoy Family Revenge Stories, please subscribe and like this channel. You are doing a great deal helping people hear what poetic justice feels like. The applause around me felt distant and hollow. I had graduated with honors from one of the top engineering programs in the country. 4 years of sleepless nights and sacrificed weekends. 4 years of proving myself. And he could not be bothered to show up. I stepped down from the stage, my legs moving automatically. The diploma in my hand felt meaningless. Then a campus security officer touched my elbow. "Excuse me, are you Jaden Cooper?" he asked quietly. I nodded, confused. "You need to come with me. Right now, there are some people who need to speak with you urgently." My heart started pounding. Something was very wrong. The security officer led me backstage through a side door I had never noticed before. My hands were shaking. I thought maybe there had been an emergency. Maybe something happened to my mother. Instead, I found a news crew setting up cameras and lighting equipment. 3 people in professional suits stood waiting. One of them stepped forward with a warm smile. "Jaden Cooper?" she asked. "I'm Catherine Wells from the National Science Foundation. We've been trying to reach you for 2 days. I stared at her blankly. "I don't understand." "You won the Caldwell Research Award," she said. "Your thesis on sustainable energy solutions was selected from over 3,000 submissions nationwide. The award comes with a $50,000 grant and a corporate partnership with Zenith Technologies." The room tilted. The Caldwell Award was legendary. Students dreamed about it. Professors talked about it like it was impossible to win. "We wanted to surprise you at your graduation," Catherine continued. "The announcement is going live in 5 minutes. Are you ready?" I was not ready. I was still processing my father's text message. But cameras were already rolling. Reporters were positioning themselves. Someone clipped a microphone to my collar. I forced a smile while my chest burned with a pain I could not name. My father had chosen work over this moment. He would never know what he missed. The broadcast aired within 2 hours. I stood in front of cameras answering questions about my research while inside I felt completely hollow. They asked about my inspiration and my goals. I gave them polished answers I had rehearsed 1,000 times for scholarship interviews. What I wanted to say was that my father was not here. That the most important person in my life had decided this was not worth his time. But I smiled. I thanked my professors. I talked about the future of renewable energy. By evening, the story had spread everywhere. Local news picked it up. National outlets ran segments. My photograph appeared on screens across the country alongside headlines about the youngest Caldwell Award winner in 15 years. My father saw it at his office. My mother called me crying to tell me what happened. His co-workers had gathered around the television in the break room, pointing at the screen and congratulating him. "Your son is amazing," they said. "You must be so proud." She said his face went hard. Not happy, not surprised, just hard and cold like stone. An hour later, my phone rang. His name flashed on the screen. I answered. His voice was sharp and controlled. "We need to talk. Now." Dinner that night felt like sitting at a funeral. My mother had cooked my favorite meal, but the food tasted like ash in my mouth. My father sat across from me, his jaw tight and his eyes cold. "You humiliated me," he said finally. I set down my fork carefully. "What?" "You knew about this award. You knew cameras would be there, and you didn't warn me." His voice was quiet but sharp as a knife. I looked like a fool in front of my entire office. They were congratulating me while I stood there with no idea what they were talking about. "I didn't know," I said. "They surprised me. I found out 5 minutes before the broadcast." "That's convenient." My mother tried to intervene. "Thomas, please. He's telling the truth. This is supposed to be a celebration. But I saw something in her eyes that made my blood run cold. Fear. The same fear I remembered from childhood arguments when my father's voice would drop to that particular tone. She was afraid of him, and I was starting to understand why. You made me look incompetent, he continued. My own son winning a national award and I'm the last to know. Do you understand how that reflects on me? I stayed at him. This was not about my achievement. This was about his ego. And suddenly I was 16 years old again, remembering something I had buried. The memory hit me like cold water. I was 16. It was summer. I had been accepted to a prestigious science program at Stanford. 2 months of advanced research with some of the best minds in the country. The acceptance letter had arrived on a Tuesday. I had been so excited I could barely breathe. I ran to show my father. He read it once. Then he tore it in half. You're getting too ambitious, he said calmly. This kind of thing goes to your head. You need to focus on normal high school experiences, not trying to show off. I had been devastated. My mother had told me he was just worried about me being so far from home, that it was about safety, not about holding me back. I had convinced myself it was a misunderstanding, that he loved me and wanted what was best. Now, sitting across from him at dinner, I was not sure anymore. I need to be excused, I said quietly. I left the table before either of them could respond. In my room, I pulled out my laptop and started searching. If he had intercepted that letter once, what else had he hidden? My hands were shaking as I logged into my email and started going through old messages. What I found made my stomach turn. The fellowship invitation arrived 3 days after graduation. A formal email from the Caldwell Foundation offering me a fully funded position at their research facility in Boston. Housing included, mentorship from leading scientists, access to cutting-edge technology. It was everything I had dreamed about. But when I tried to access the attached documents, I noticed something strange. The email thread showed previous messages I had never seen. I clicked through the history and my blood went cold. There were 5 other emails from the foundation, dated over the past 2 years, all sent to my personal email address, all marked as read, but moved to a folder I did not recognize. Someone had been accessing my email account, reading my messages, hiding them from me. I checked the folder settings. It had been created 3 years ago with a filter rule that automatically moved any emails from universities, scholarship programs, or research institutions into hidden storage. My father was the only other person who knew my password. I had given it to him in high school when he said he needed to help me with college applications. I spent the next 4 hours digging through that hidden folder. What I found made me physically sick. Acceptance letters to summer programs, scholarship notifications, internship offers, research opportunities, all of them marked as read, all of them never shown to me. And at the bottom of the folder, I found the responses. Emails sent from my account declining every single opportunity. I printed everything, every email, every decline notice, every piece of evidence. The stack of papers grew until it was 3 inches thick. My hands shook as I read through the confirmations. Programs I had applied to and never heard back from. Opportunities one thought I had been rejected from. All of them accepted. All of them declined in my name. There was a summer research position at MIT. Declined. A scholarship to study renewable energy in Germany. Declined. An internship at a leading environmental nonprofit. Declined. Each one carefully worded to sound like me. Each one sent from my own email address. He had stolen my future piece by piece. Not with violence or screaming. Just quiet, systematic sabotage. And the worst part was the pattern I saw in the timing. Every opportunity he declined was something that would have taken me away from home. That would have given me independence. That would have let me build a life without him. He had not been protecting me. He had been trapping me. I sat at my desk staring at the evidence until my vision blurred. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted to cry. But mostly I felt cold and clear and certain. I needed to confront my mother first. I needed to know if she knew. I found my mother in the kitchen the next morning. She was making coffee, her movements slow and tired. When she saw my face, she knew immediately that something was wrong. Jaden, what is it? I set the stack of papers on the counter between us. Did you know? She looked at the printed emails. Her face went pale. Then her hand started shaking so badly she had to set down her coffee mug. "Oh God," she whispered. That was all the answer I needed. "How long?" I asked. My voice sounded strange and distant to my own ears. "Since you were in high school." She would not look at me. "I found out 2 years ago. I saw him on your laptop late at night. I asked him what he was doing, and he told me he was just checking to make sure you were safe online. But you knew it was more than that." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I confronted him about it. He said he was protecting you from getting hurt. That these programs would fill your head with ideas about leaving. About being better than us. He said he was saving you from failure. And you believed him." "I was afraid," she said. Her voice broke. "I was afraid of what would happen if I pushed too hard. If I chose you over him. I thought maybe he would stop once you graduated. I thought maybe then you would be free." Her confession felt like another betrayal layered on top of all the others. She had known. She had watched him steal my future. And she had done nothing. I confronted my father that evening. I waited until he came home from work. I had the printed emails organized in chronological order. I had highlighted the key passages. I was calm and prepared. He walked into the kitchen and saw me sitting at the table with the evidence spread out in front of me. For a moment, he just stood there, his briefcase still in his hand, his tie loosened from a long day at the office. Then his eyes met mine and I saw something flicker across his face. Not guilt, not shame, fear. "We need to talk," I said quietly. I slid the first page across the table. The MIT acceptance letter he had declined in my name. His face hardened. "Where did you get these?" "My email account. The one you've been accessing for 3 years. I was protecting you." "From what?" My voice stayed level. "From opportunities. From success. From having a future that didn't revolve around you. You don't understand." He set down his briefcase. "These programs would have taken you away. Changed you. Made you think you were better than your family. So you decided for me. I'm your father. That's my job." Something in me snapped. Not into anger. Into clarity. "You were afraid," I said. "Afraid I would surpass you. Afraid I would leave and never come back. Afraid you would lose control." For a moment, he looked cornered. His shoulders tensed. His jaw clenched. Then he exploded. "You think you're so smart," he shouted. "You think winning some award makes you better than me? I built this family. I provided everything you have. And this is how you repay me? By trying to destroy everything I've worked for." My mother appeared in the doorway. "Thomas, please. Stay out of this," he snapped. I stood up calmly. "I'm not trying to destroy anything. I'm just showing you what you did. I did what was necessary. You were getting ideas above your station. Someone had to keep you grounded." The words hung in the air like poison. That night, I moved the evidence to a secure cloud account. I made copies. I documented everything. I thought that was the end of it. I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. 2 days later, I got a call from the Caldwell Foundation. My fellowship offer was being frozen pending an urgent investigation. Someone had sent them documents claiming I had falsified my award credentials, that my research data was fabricated, that I had plagiarized portions of my thesis. The accusations were detailed and specific. They included altered screenshots and manipulated timestamps that made it look like I had cheated my way to the award. My hands went numb as I listened to the foundation representative explain that until the investigation concluded, I could not begin the fellowship. My grant was on hold. My future was suspended. When I hung up, I knew exactly what had happened. My father had not sabotaged me alone. Someone else was involved. Someone with access to professional resources and technical skills. A senior colleague of my father. Someone who wanted to protect him by destroying me. The accusation spread through academic circles like wildfire. Emails started pouring in from professors asking if it was true. Former classmates messaged me with barely concealed shock. The news outlets that had celebrated my award now ran follow-up stories questioning my integrity. The comments sections filled with people saying they knew it was too good to be true, that someone my age could not possibly have done legitimate research. My phone would not stop ringing. My mother called crying. The university called asking for statements. The foundation called with more questions. I sat in my apartment watching my reputation burn in real time. And my father panicked. I knew because my mother told me. She called late at night, whispering so he would not hear. He didn't know this would happen, she said. The colleague went too far. Your father just wanted to scare you, to make you back down. But now everyone thinks you're a fraud and it's reflecting on him too. Good, I said coldly. Jaden is losing his job. They are saying he can't be trusted if he raised a son who would cheat like this. His entire career is collapsing. He should have thought about that before he sabotaged mine. But the truth was more complicated. If he went down for this, I would go down too. His colleague had tied our reputations together. We were both drowning. And I realized with terrible clarity that my father was considering throwing me under completely to save himself. I found out he was planning to issue a public statement. My mother overheard him on the phone with a lawyer, practicing what he would say. She recorded it and sent it to me. I listened to his voice through my phone speaker, cold and detached as he rehearsed how he would distance himself from me, how he would express disappointment in my choices, how he would paint himself as a loving father betrayed by a dishonest son. Every word was calculated to sacrifice my credibility while protecting his own. I sat in the dark listening to him plan my destruction. The man who was supposed to protect me was preparing to throw me to the wolves. But I was not the frightened 16-year-old boy whose acceptance letter he could tear in half anymore. I was 22. I had won a national award through legitimate work. I had documentation of everything he had done to me. And I had learned something important from him over the years. If you want to win, you have to be smarter than your opponent. I spent the next 48 hours gathering evidence. Not emotional accusations. Not angry rants. Cold, hard, verifiable documentation. I pulled phone records showing when my father's colleague had accessed university databases. I collected metadata from the falsified documents showing they had been created on my father's colleague's work computer. I found email chains between my father and this colleague discussing how to manage my career ambitions. I built an airtight case, and I prepared to present it with surgical precision. The investigation hearing was scheduled for Monday morning. I arrived early wearing a professional suit with my hair cut neatly. I carried a leather portfolio containing every piece of evidence I had collected. The room was formal and intimidating. A panel of 5 university administrators sat at a long table. My father sat on one side with his lawyer. I sat alone on the other. The colleague who had created the false documents was also present. His name was Marcus Webb. He sat beside my father looking confident and relaxed. The panel chair, Dean Patricia Holloway, opened the session. We're here to investigate allegations that Mr. Cooper falsified research data and plagiarized portions of his award-winning thesis. Mr. Cooper, how do you respond? I opened my portfolio calmly. I deny all allegations completely. And I have evidence proving that these accusations were fabricated as part of a deliberate campaign to sabotage my career. I began presenting my documentation methodically. Phone records, email chains, metadata analysis, digital timestamps proving the falsified documents had been created after my award was announced. I showed them proof that Marcus Webb had accessed my research files without authorization, that he had altered screenshots to make it appear I had plagiarized when the original sources proved otherwise. The silence in the room became suffocating. Then I presented the final piece of evidence. Emails between my father and Marcus Webb discussing their plan. The emails were damning. Detailed conversations about how to undermine my credibility. Discussions about which accusations would be most effective. Planning sessions about timing the release of false evidence. I read one email aloud, my voice steady and clear. We need to move quickly before he gains too much momentum. If we can create doubt about his integrity now, it will follow him for years. Better to cut this off before he becomes untouchable. That email was from Marcus Webb to my father, dated 3 days after my graduation. My father's response was even worse. Agreed. I've tried more subtle approaches for years. He needs to learn there are consequences for defying family expectations. The panel members exchanged glances. Dean Holloway's expression hardened. Mr. Cooper, did you write this email? My father's lawyer whispered urgently in his ear, but I could see the panic in my father's eyes. He had not expected me to have this evidence. He had not expected me to fight back so effectively. I was concerned about my son's well-being, he said carefully. I thought he was taking on too much too quickly. I expressed those concerns to a colleague. You didn't express concerns, I said quietly. You orchestrated a campaign to destroy my reputation, and you involved your colleague in creating false evidence against me. Marcus Webb suddenly stood up. This is ridiculous. He's manipulating those emails, taking them out of context. I pulled out another document. This is the digital forensic report I commissioned. It confirms the metadata matches the file stored on your work computer, Mr. Webb. It also shows you accessed restricted university databases to alter my research records. The color drained from his face. The investigation panel took 30 minutes to review all the evidence. When they returned, their verdict was clear and immediate. The fabricated accusations against me were dismissed completely. My award and fellowship were reinstated with a formal apology from the university. Marcus Webb was terminated effective immediately. Criminal charges were being filed for fraud and unauthorized access to university systems. And my father faced his own consequences. Dean Holloway addressed him directly. Mr. Cooper, while you did not create the false documents yourself, you participated in planning this scheme. You used your position and connections to harm your son's career. The university is recommending your employer conduct their own ethics investigation. My father sat frozen in his chair. His lawyer was frantically taking notes. Additionally, the dean continued, we are implementing mandatory ethics training for all staff and faculty to prevent this type of behavior in the future. The hearing concluded. Marcus Webb was escorted out by security. My father sat alone at his table, his face ashen. For the first time in my life, I saw him look small. Not angry, not controlling, just small and terrified. He had built his entire identity on being powerful and important. And now he was watching it crumble. As I gathered my things to leave, one of the panel members approached me. Mr. Cooper, you handled this with remarkable professionalism. Many people would have reacted emotionally. You chose documentation and facts instead. I thanked her quietly. But inside, I felt nothing except a cold, clear sense of justice. My father's employer moved quickly. Within a week, he was called before their ethics review board. The university had shared their findings. His emails with Marcus Webb had been forwarded to his company's legal department. He was not fired, but his position was demoted. His authority was stripped. He was placed on probation with mandatory compliance training. The man who had spent 30 years building his career was reduced to a supervised employee who needed permission to make basic decisions. My mother called to tell me he was falling apart. He could not sleep. He barely ate. He sat in his home office staring at the wall for hours. He's terrified, she said. He's terrified he'll lose everything. I felt no satisfaction hearing this. Just a hollow ache where anger used to be. What did he expect? I asked. I don't know. I don't think he thought it through. I think he was just so afraid of losing you that he couldn't see what he was doing. The university's internal investigation uncovered more evidence I had not known about. They found documentation showing my father had influenced hiring decisions to prevent my former professors from writing me reference letters. He had quietly discouraged colleagues from working with me on research projects. His sabotage had been systematic and thorough. Years of small actions designed to keep me dependent on him. And now it was all public record. The Caldwell Foundation offered me a choice. They wanted to make a public statement clearing my name and exposing what had happened. It would rehabilitate my reputation completely, but it would also destroy my father's career entirely. Once the full story went public, no company would ever hire him again. I could choose to let him fall alone. I could walk away and build my life without looking back. The temptation was overwhelming. I sat with the decision for 3 days. I thought about 16-year-old me devastated over a torn acceptance letter. I thought about all the opportunities one had lost because he was too afraid to let me succeed. I thought about the look on his face at the hearing when he realized he had lost control. And I realized something important. I did not want revenge. I wanted freedom. Destroying him completely would not give me that. It would just tie me to him forever through guilt and anger. So I made a different choice. When the ethics hearing was held at my father's company, I was called to testify. I could have refused, but I agreed to appear. I walked into the conference room where the review board sat waiting. My father was there with his lawyer. When he saw me, something flickered in his eyes. Hope, maybe, or fear. I testified truthfully. I confirmed that Marcus Webb had acted alone in creating the false documents. I stated clearly that while my father had expressed concerns about my career, he had not directly participated in the fabrication of evidence. But I did not hide the rest. I presented documentation of his years of interference, the declined opportunities, the intercepted emails, the systematic sabotage of my career development. I laid it all out calmly and clearly. My father did not falsify documents, I said, but he did attempt to control my future through deception. He prevented me from accessing opportunities one had earned. He made decisions in my name without my knowledge or consent. The board members took notes. My father's lawyer tried to object, but I had documentation for everything. I'm testifying to the facts, I continued. Not to seek revenge, but because the truth needs to be on record. When I finished, the board asked me one more question. Mr. Cooper, do you believe your father is capable of ethical professional conduct going forward? I looked at him across the table. Really looked at him. I believe he's capable of learning, I said, if he chooses to. The review board's decision came down the following week. Marcus Webb faced criminal charges and a permanent ban from academic institutions. My father kept his job, but he lost his senior position permanently. He was reassigned to a role with limited authority and mandatory ethics oversight. Every decision he made would be reviewed, every action documented. He would spend the rest of his career proving he could be trusted. It was not a firing. It was something worse. It was public accountability with no escape. The company released a statement commending the integrity of their investigation and their commitment to ethical behavior. They specifically mentioned my cooperation in helping uncover the truth. My name appeared in that statement. My father's name appeared in a separate paragraph about corrective actions. The contrast was deliberate and clear. 2 weeks later, my father's company held an all-staff meeting about new ethics protocols. Leadership presented the changes they were implementing based on lessons learned from recent investigations. They did not name my father specifically, but everyone knew. At the end of the presentation, the CEO recognized employees who had demonstrated exceptional integrity during difficult circumstances. My name was the first one called. The CEO read a summary of what had happened, how I had been falsely accused, how I had gathered evidence instead of reacting emotionally, how I had helped the investigation reach the truth while maintaining professionalism throughout. Mr. Cooper is not an employee of this company, he said, but his actions set a standard we should all aspire to. Integrity under pressure, truth over convenience, and the courage to stand up for what's right even when it's difficult. The room erupted in applause. My father stood in the audience. I could see him from where I sat in the front row. His hands were clapping mechanically. His face was pale. He could not speak, could not object, could not do anything except witness his son being praised for the exact qualities he had tried to suppress. The poetic justice was almost unbearable to watch. That night, my father called me. His voice was quiet and broken in a way I had never heard before. Can we talk? He asked. Please, just the two of us. We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory, public enough that neither of us could lose control. He looked older than I remembered. Gray hair I had not noticed before, lines around his eyes that seemed deeper. I'm sorry, he said. The words came out rough and uncertain. I'm sorry for everything. I waited. Sorry was not enough. It had never been enough. I was afraid, he continued. My whole life, I was afraid of not being good enough. My father left our family when I was 12 because he lost his job. He couldn't handle the shame of failure. He just disappeared and never came back. I had not known that. My father never talked about his childhood. I built my entire life around never being that weak, never being disposable. And when you started succeeding, when you started becoming someone who didn't need me, I panicked. So you tried to make me need you, I said, by taking away my choices. Yes. He looked at his hands. I thought if I could keep you close, keep you dependent, I would never lose you the way I lost him. But I became exactly what I was afraid of. I abandoned you emotionally while trying to control you physically. His confession was honest, raw, everything I had wanted to hear for years. But it did not erase the damage. I don't hate you, I said carefully, but I don't trust you. And trust is going to take a very long time to rebuild. I understand. I need distance. I need boundaries. I need to know that my choice is on my own. He nodded slowly. What do you need from me? I need you to stop trying to control my future. I need you to stop intercepting my opportunities. I need you to let me succeed or fail on my own terms. I can do that. And I need you to get help. Real professional help. Because this pattern of fear and control, it's not just about me. It's about something broken in you that I can't fix. He was quiet for a long time. You're right. I'll find a therapist. I'll do the work. Good. Because if you don't, I'm gone. Completely. No contact. No relationship. I won't spend my life fighting you for my own freedom. The words were harsh but necessary. Boundaries without consequences were just suggestions. I understand, he said again. And this time, I almost believed he did. We finished our coffee in silence. Before I left, he asked one more question. The fellowship. Are you still going to take it? Yes. I leave for Boston in 2 weeks. That's far away. That's the point. I left him sitting at the table. As I walked to my car, I did not look back. The fellowship was reinstated with full honors. The Caldwell Foundation issued a formal apology for the investigation and commended my integrity throughout the process. They also increased my grant by $20,000 to compensate for the stress and professional damage. The media picked up the story again. This time, the headlines were about justice and redemption. About a young scientist who fought back against false accusations with evidence and professionalism. My inbox flooded with messages from other students who had faced similar situations. People who had been sabotaged by family members who were threatened by their success. I started responding to some of them, sharing what I had learned. That documentation matters. That emotional restraint is powerful. That you can set boundaries without becoming cruel. The day before I left for Boston, my mother helped me pack. My father came to say goodbye. He stood in the doorway of my apartment looking lost and uncertain. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. I know I never showed it properly, but I am. Thank you. Will you call sometimes? Just to let me know you're okay. Maybe. When I'm ready. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $5,000. I can't make up for the opportunities one took from you, but I want to help with your move. No strings attached. I looked at the check for a long time. Part of me wanted to refuse it, but that would be about pride, not healing. Thank you, I said, and I meant it. The awards ceremony for the Caldwell Fellowship was held at a prestigious hotel in Boston. Hundreds of people attended. Scientists, professors, industry leaders. Everyone who mattered in the field. I stood backstage in a formal suit, my hands shaking slightly. This was real. This was happening. When they called my name, the applause was thunderous. I walked onto the stage and looked out at the audience. And in the back row, almost hidden in the shadows, I saw my father. He had come, without telling me, without asking permission, just quietly showing up. He was clapping slowly, tears visible on his face even from that distance. When I gave my acceptance speech, I talked about perseverance, about facing obstacles, about the importance of integrity even when it would be easier to give up. I did not mention my father specifically, but he knew. Everyone who had followed the story knew. The man who had tried to shrink my world was forced to watch it expand. After the ceremony, reporters surrounded me. Cameras flashed. Questions came rapid fire about my research and my plans for the future. My father stood in the back, watching but not approaching. Before I left, I caught his eye across the crowd. He raised his hand in a small wave. I nodded back. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Just acknowledgement. He was there. That was something. Afterward, my father asked if he could take me to dinner. I almost said no, but something in his face stopped me. We went to a quiet restaurant. Ordered food neither of us really wanted. Thank you for coming, I said finally. I wouldn't have missed it. Not again. I meant what I said before. About boundaries. About distance. I know, and I'm going to respect that. I'm in therapy twice a week now, working on the control issues. All of it. Good. I can't change what I did. I can't give you back those years. But I can promise to do better going forward. I looked at him across the table. This man who had hurt me so deeply. This man who had finally started to understand. I don't need promises, I said. I need actions. Consistent actions over time. You'll get them. We finished dinner. He walked me back to my hotel. Before he left, he hugged me. Brief and awkward, but genuine. I love you, he said. I know I showed it wrong for a long time, but I do love you. I know. As I watched him walk away, I felt something shift. Not forgiveness exactly, but the possibility of it someday. My phone buzzed with notifications. The ceremony had aired nationally. My story was trending again. The photo showed me on stage, accepting my award, my face bright with accomplishment. The man who tried to control my future was nowhere in the frame. My world was expanding. My future was mine. And for the first time in my life, I was completely, truly free. The justice was not just that he had to watch me succeed. It was that he no longer had any power over whether I did.